Hey everyone, and welcome to my newest series, Making a Coilgun. Now I know this series is a little different than my other gaming videos, but I'd like to think the same thought process I apply to making things in games I'm going to be using in real life to create a coilgun. What even is a coilgun? Well, as the name implies, it involves one or more coils of wire shooting some projectile. Now that might have raised even more questions though, like how does a coil gain the ability to suddenly shoot a projectile? Let's run through a quick theoretical demo and then switch to a real life example of what I'm talking about. If I run electricity through a wire, a magnetic field is produced. The more current that runs through the wire, the larger the magnetic field. But if magnetic fields are produced by current running through a wire, why doesn't something like your phone charger start attracting paperclips and other magnetic objects when you plug in your phone? These currents are relatively weak, so the magnetic fields produced are also pretty weak. The important thing though is that they do exist. We just need a way to strengthen them. If I loop the wire a few times, the magnetic fields produced in each loop add together. There are lots of complicated equations to calculate how strong the resulting fields are, but that's not really important to focus on right now. What's important is that we've just created an electromagnet. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of electromagnets before, as they're super useful. The gates at amusement parks, bell-striking mechanisms in some doorbells, and power door locks in cars all use electromagnets. We're going to use electromagnets to propel ferromagnetic projectiles. This is a spool of solid core 22 gauge wire. Solid core just means it's a single thick strand of metal, and 22 gauge is its size. I have some paper clips here I'll use for testing that are magnetic. Without any current flowing through the wire, the paper clips aren't influenced at all by the coil, as you'd expect. Let's connect the coil to my power supply. I did some research and found you can run a maximum of about an amp through 22 gauge wire, but we can temporarily run 2.5 amps through it, so I'll set that limit on my supply. The ampere or amp is the unit for current. For reference, your phone likely charges at 2 amps, while your laptop might charge at 5 amps. I'll connect the two ends of my coil to the supply now. There's a positive and negative terminal on the power supply, but here it doesn't matter which way we connect them. If I power it on, you can see that 2.5 amps, give or take a little bit, is flowing through the coil. Now if I bring the paper clips near it, you can see they get attracted to the sides of the center of the spool. If I stick them all around the coil and then power off my supply, the current stops flowing and they all fall as the magnetic field collapses. If I place a paper clip on the edge of the coil here and connect it to my supply, the paper clip gets attracted to the center of the coil. Okay, that's kinda cool, but why? Well, when I power on the coil, the paperclip is attracted to the magnetic field in the center of the coil. This causes it to accelerate all the way to the center. As the paperclip passes through the center, the magnetic field now works to decelerate the object, pulling it back into the center. In a perfect world, it oscillates forever like this. In our imperfect world, though, friction, air resistance, and other forces like that work to slow down the object over time, eventually having it settle in, you guessed it, the center of the coil. If I time my disconnection right, the paperclip reaches the center of the coil and will remove the current going into the coil. This makes the magnetic field disappear, and now no force is being applied to the paperclip. Since no external forces are being applied, an object in motion will stay in motion, and so the paperclip continues out the end of the coil. It's difficult to time when to disconnect power to the coil. If I turn it off too soon, then I don't want the object to accelerate for the maximum possible amount of time. If I turn it off too late though, I get negative acceleration which slows down the object. Of course, I'll be going over different solutions to this timing problem in future videos. Back to our paperclip though, this is a cool proof of concept, but in comparison to an actual bullet, it's really lame. Let's up the current to 5 amps and see what kind of effect it has. Now if I put my paperclip back into place and quickly connect power, that was a bit more impressive. That was my cute way of mentioning there are a lot of factors that alter how quickly the object will move. A larger magnetic field, which is caused by passing more current through the coil, will accelerate the object more. Also, you could have multiple stages of coils to accelerate the object over a larger distance. Different coil shapes and properties will also affect how the projectile moves. Let's change gears a bit and talk about some of my goals for the project. I want the completed design to be about 2 feet or 60 centimeters long. I'd like it to be portable, so a battery will be a must. I'll eventually do some projectile tests, but for a very rough size range, I'd probably want to see something between the size of a BB and the size of a D battery. Of course, this number is going to change based mainly on the size of the projectile, but I want to see a top speed of about 150 feet per second or 46 meters per second, which might be asking a lot, but I'm going to try my best to reach that speed. On a more personal note, I've never done a video in real life like this, and I don't really have the equipment to film or record anything yet. All the footage in this video is recorded with my phone propped up on just random objects I had lying around. I didn't want to make a big purchase on a camera or stand without knowing if people would be interested in this series, so let me know below. The second thing is this is going to be a bit of an expensive project for me, not only just to get the equipment to film and whatever else, but also just to get the parts for the project. In a polybridge video or whatever else, there is no cost besides the electricity going to my computer, but here I actually have to buy parts and I experiment and stuff, so it's going to be a little difficult for me to make. So if you wanted to support me on Patreon, I would greatly appreciate it, and all the funds from there would be going straight into this project. This was a shorter video, but I like to open my series with dedicated introductions. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my experimentation with coils. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask below. Until next time.